I'm well, Miss Denise. Thanks so much for having me.
No, thank you for joining us. I know that we were going to talk about, this repeal of with the Environmental Protection Agency, but before we do that, I just have to because
Mhm.
the video reminded me, and we are one of our writers is about to do a story on I guess the major drought that's occurring all across the United States right now. I mean, our
Yes.
weather reporters are already saying, we need rain, we need rain, we need rain. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't know if people really pay much attention to that. I mean, from your vantage point, what does that mean for us when you have this drought, besides fires, drought,
Yeah.
fire? Yeah.
Yeah, the conditions are dry. And it's causing a strain on our systems, our water systems, the availability of drinkable water around the country. And we might not go deeper into this conversation, but also when you think about the proliferation of data centers in our community and their demands on water, it's a scary time. There's a lot of issues related to drought. I think, like you were saying, with the wildfires, particularly on the West Coast, we've seen big events happen last year in Canada and the West Coast, but those have impacts right here in Washington, D.C. as well, right? When you see those big plumes of wildfire smoke or the skies go red or pink some certain days, guess what? Pollution knows no boundaries,
Yeah.
right? We're talking about some of the previous guests were talking about just where we are with this administration, right? This isn't a political issue. Kids breathing clean air, you be able to go outside without having to mask up if you have COPD or if you have asthma. These are human lives we're talking about. These aren't just names, numbers, and things that are happening on Congress. These are issues that affect us, our health, our wallets, our budgets every day.
Well, I mean, and now at the top of the news are the fires down there in Atlanta and I mean in Georgia, southern
Mm-hmm.
Georgia and Florida, and I mean they keep talking about there's just not water. We've had them in North Carolina,
Yep.
so they've been pretty close. And you're right, we were impacted from Canada with the smoke coming in
Mm-hmm.
to the DMV last summer. I mean, that's just one of the issues. And first, let me also say thank you for supporting the Washington Informer for our annual sustainability issue. I mean, that was amazing, and we are going to make sure
Absolutely.
we're making sure that we're getting it circulated in every place that we can, because folks need to read all the great information that was in there, and your support made it happen. But I want to ask you about some, I don't want to call it breaking news because it's in February, but
Yeah.
this whole thing with the Environmental Protection Agency's repeal of greenhouse gas in the motor vehicle. Well, they're doing stuff with grass too, but
Right.
motor vehicle greenhouse gas emission standards, under
Yeah.
the Clean Air Act. I mean, they're basically reversing all of the hard work that you all put into this in the past. But what does that mean when you say that, what the EPA has done, and how is that going to impact the American public?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like you said, the Environmental Protection Agency, and really we could say the whole Trump administration, right? They're abandoning their duty to protect all Americans from the dangers of climate change. And what they're trying to do with this repeal of the endangerment finding, is going to result in, simply put, just more health harms and higher costs for us all. So this endangerment finding, pretty much it's over 10 years of sound scientific research and findings that makes the link between climate and health very clear, right? And it gives the EPA the authority to protect us from these impacts. And like we were talking about, this could be drought, it could be more extreme weather, it could be heat and temperatures, high temperatures, unpredictable weather. And with this endangerment finding, what they're doing is turning their backs on us and our health. EPA has been doing a number of actions in the whole administration, and this puts limits on pollution that comes from power plants. This helps put limits on pollution from car tailpipes. It also limits um, soot or particulate matter, stuff that comes from in the air, pollution that's a highly driver of asthma. It puts pollution limits on those. This administration is taking those away as well. There's so many things that are happening at this administration, and they're really making it clear, who they're working for. They want to give passes to big corporate polluters to pollute. The EPA is valuing human life at zero, right? They're no longer going to consider our health when they make rules. They're only looking at how much it costs businesses to comply with these common sense, protections for our health and our futures and our well-being. And there's still stuff we can do though. We don't have to give up. We don't have to throw our hands up. But it's a really, really troubling time that we're in right now.
Well, I know one thing. I was thinking the other day, I would hate to be an automobile manufacturer right now. Where I once was going to be applauded for creating electric vehicles, but then
Yep,
I'm no longer required to do that. But at the same time, gas prices are going up, and people are now
absolutely.
looking for more opportunities to buy electric vehicles. I mean, they're in a quandary. What do we do? Do we do,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
are we? And the American public, even I guess this is more of a question. Even with these repeals of EPA, the American public is, how do you feel that they're approaching this? I mean, we're looking now at growing our own food,
Mhm.
because the prices of food are so high. I mean, what's the reaction that you're seeing to what the government is doing as opposed to what the people are doing?
Yeah, I mean it's backward, like you said. People want electric vehicles. People want clean air, clean water, clean like a healthy environment. People want these things. Even when we're talking about toxic chemicals, even with the EPA, some of the things that the FDA is doing, people don't want to be exposed to chemicals and pollutants that are linked to chronic disease and cancer. And that's the reality of the situation when we're talking about the whole federal government just rolling back rules and rolling back protections. Nobody benefits from that.
Well, you are communications director of the Environmental Defense Fund.
Hmm.
And my question is, how does the Environmental Defense Fund defend the environment? What do you all?
Yeah, yeah. So, Environmental Defense Fund, also known as EDF, we're a big team. We've got a bunch of lawyers, we've got economists, of course, we've got scientists, we've got community engagement experts. Um, and we all work together on a number of fronts. So, in court with this endangerment finding, EDF has teamed up with a number of other environmental advocacy organizations and grassroots organizations to challenge, these repeals in court. Because one thing, that we have in America is the democracy. And so some of these things, are clearly unlawful. And so EDF and a bunch of groups are challenging a lot of these regulatory actions in court. Another thing that EDF does, we work hand in hand with community groups all across the country. Our community engagement team has a program called the Lighthouse Mayor Project, where they work with mayors all around the country to help them implement sustainability programs, whether more access to clean energy, more access to green space, those kinds of incentives for everyday people and for business owners to tap in to clean energy and the cost savings that it brings. Another thing that we do also is, more directly on the legislative front. So, right now, there's a couple of things that we're watching in Congress really, really closely. The Toxic Substance Control Act is a piece of legislation that was originally enacted in the 1970s and it got updated in 2016. And what it does is it protects Americans from the health harms of, the most toxic chemicals. So we're talking about formaldehyde or PFAS, or people know it as forever chemicals. These are some of the most chemicals that are commonly used in, our electronics, varnishings on your floor, flame retardants in your furniture. We're seeing an effort that's influenced by big corporations, big business, the chemical lobby, to roll back these common sense protections. It's another move, right, that this administration is really pushing for to put polluters and profits, corporate profits, over people's health. So we're watching that really closely, and pushing back and making sure that folks are aware, and every day people know where the opportunities also are happening with a lot of these issues.
Wonderful. Cecile, we're kind of short on time, but I wanted to ask too, as people drive through, I guess I'm one of those. You drive through neighborhoods or communities all across the city, and you see some, not across the city, but all across the country. And some, are do a really good job of keeping streets clean and
Hmm.
what have you. you there are areas where people, individuals, pollute more. I don't know if you get that weird feeling when you see somebody throw out a bag or
Yes.
something or a cup or whatever out of their window.
Hmm.
What measures are cities taking? Some creative things that you might know about, where people are actually having anti, um, uh, whatever the word is. It's not pollution, but anti whatever.
Littering.
Littering. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
word I was
yeah, yeah,
looking for.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
DC, I think, Washington, DC is a model of this for the whole entire country. So,
really. Okay.
back in maybe it might have been around 2016. I'm not for sure the exact year, but DC implemented that bag fee, the 5 cent bag fee. And basically, what that does is it funds these kind of programs, Ms. Denise, that you were mentioning, right? When you go to the grocery store or go to the store and you have to pay that 5 cent fee, what it does is it funds a lot of really cool technology that DC has to basically put caps on the outlets from the sewers into the Anacostia or into the Potomac rivers, and they're called trash traps. So what they do is they put these big nets and big contraptions to where hundreds of pounds of trash gets collected, and it helps keep, the plastic bottles, the plastic bags, that litter out of our waterways, right? That eventually, well, it doesn't really go anywhere, right? It might turn into microplastics or something like that. It doesn't go anywhere. But that's one example of some cool technology. And I think too, Earth Day is just a reminder of how we can be better stewards of
Mm,
our own communities.
yeah.
You were talking earlier, just earlier, about being more self sufficient. And a big part of that is loving the earth like she's the only one we have, because that's the truth. And the thing about what makes single use plastic and some of these materials, it is a real threat to our communities, because these products only get used for a short amount of time, but they have such a long life. They don't disintegrate into the environment. They may turn into microplastics. And now we're seeing research that microplastics are showing up in our bodies, right? It might harm our health, our endocrine system. There's so many impacts of these things. You make a 1 second choice, but it has impacts for a long, long time.
Well, I know communications is a job. I know, you're there, you have a job to do. But
Mhm.
is there where did you develop the passion for environmental protection or sustainability? I want to know a little bit about
Oh,
Cecile.
I thank you for the question. Yeah, my passion stems from, just like a lot of Black Americans in our country. Me and my family were products of the Great Migration, what we call the Great Migration. So I was born and raised in Metro Detroit, but all of my family is from Mobile, Alabama, which is also a port city, a waterfront town. And back in 2014, I had the opportunity to serve as the Mobile Mardi Gras Queen. And that's kind of what got me into conservation and environmental protection, because, Mobile is known as the home of Mardi Gras before Louisiana, but a lot of times when they're throwing the beads and the stuff out on the street, that stuff could end up in the bay. And those
Yeah.
beads, just like plastic, does have a very toxic footprint. And so after doing a community service project down there in Mobile to help, address the litter problem around the festivities, that's what really got me going into the environmental movement. I decided to go back to school, get a master's degree. I spent some time working at DC's Energy and Environment for a while, and never looked back.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. That's fantastic. Oh, you don't think about it. I know DPW in the District of Columbia is on it with parades and what have you. I mean,
Yes,
they step up really, really quickly. I always want to give a shout out to them because they do such a great
absolutely.
job. But yeah, it's good to know how individuals take this route. I think I'm going to be asking some of our other guests as well. But I want to thank you so much for joining us. Is there a way for just the general public to be a part?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, edf.org is our website. There's a take action page. We've got petitions where you can sign on to help, protect and uphold some of the standards that are already existing. We also have We also have a number of opportunities. We've got a chemical exposure action map. So what you can do, it's chemicalactionmap.edf.org. You can go in, you can look by your zip code, you can drop a pin on a map, and you can see if you live near an industrial facility, and you
Mhm.
can look up what chemical exposures may be in your neighborhood, how they might impact your health, whether it's asthma, prenatal health harms, or cancer. And then from that page, you can send a letter to your member of Congress, to your representative, to tell them how important these rules are and to uphold our health standards. We also have a blog, edf.org .health. You can go check out our blog. We've got a number of articles, resources, fact sheets that anybody can tap into.
Wonderful. Cecile Brown, thank you so very much for being with us today. I really appreciate it. Learned a lot. And, I'm not being a journalist, I'm being very biased here. We want to do our best to protect the environment. So we're part of the team.
Absolutely.
We are a partner with you, and we're so glad that you all partnered with us. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thanks so much.
All righty. Take care.
Where do you come to get all you